This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. After days of uncertainty and travel chaos for hundreds of thousands of airline passengers, a tentative deal has now been reached between Air Canada and the union representing its flight attendants.
We're so happy that we finally reached this industry-leading deal that allows our flight attendants to be compensated for the important work, safety work, customer service work that they perform on the ground.
More than 10,000 Air Canada flight attendants walked off the job Saturday. A major dispute was over unpaid work while planes are on the ground, such as time spent loading and unloading passengers. The agreement must still be ratified by its members, but Air Canada says flights are beginning to resume immediately, with operations at full capacity within 7 to 10 days. The airline also says 5,000 additional staff are being brought in to help with rebookings, with customers being given up to a year to make changes and refunds being offered where appropriate. Now, that tentative agreement comes after days on the picket lines, hundreds of canceled flights, and hundreds of thousands of travelers' plans being upended. And while planes will be back in the air, how the situation was handled isn't sitting well with many travelers. CBC's Gavin Axelrod has been speaking with people at the airport here in Winnipeg over the last few hours. So, Gavin, how are people feeling?
Well, Brittany, while some people are breathing a sigh of relief, hoping their future travel plans can go ahead, there's still some frustration. Now, we've been here at the airport for a few hours, and when we first got here, the first thing we noticed was that there were long lines at the check-in assistance booth. And it isn't so bad right now, but a lot of people were actually here trying to rebook their flights. The airline and the Winnipeg Airports Authority have been asking people not to come to the airport if their flights are canceled. But some travelers we spoke to said it's been almost nearly impossible to get a hold of someone by phone, and it's causing frustrations and also leaving them with little options but to just show up at the airport.
They told us that all our agencies are booked right now, and then they just hang up.
It's bonkers to me. If they wanted to avoid disruption, then they should have hired more staff to answer phones, or I don't know, or improve their online rebooking options.
So, Gavin, a lot of frustrations. We know that deal is still tentative. So what is Air Canada telling travelers now?
Yeah, so even though they have reached a tentative deal, everything isn't going back to normal quite yet. Air Canada says it is. Air Canada says that it is going to take a few days before things can get back up to schedule, and the airline also is warning people that flights may be delayed up to about a week. Now, that means for people who are traveling, it'd be good to check your flight schedule, especially if you're traveling in the next couple of days or a few hours here, to make sure that things haven't been further impacted. And like you mentioned, Air Canada is bringing in more staff to help out with some of these problems. And for people with flight cancellations, the airline is offering options like rebooking, a future credit, or a refund. Brittany.
All right, thank you, Gavin. That's CBC's Gavin Axelrod. A paramedic shortage left more than half the city's ambulances out of service on Saturday night. Officials blame unplanned absences for taking 10 of the expected 19 ambulances off the road. Wait times for 911 calls were also delayed because 5 of 11 operators were off duty. The city says there's been a significant increase in sick days for firefighters and paramedics. The union says the city's strategy of relying on overtime to fill vacant shifts doesn't work because staff are burning out. It says Winnipeg needs more paramedics and more firefighters. Well, when more than a dozen seniors were forced out of their assisted living facility, families were blindsided and left scrambling. They were told it was all to accommodate much-needed renovations. But those renovations never happened, a move that didn't sit right with one Winnipeg family who took on the battle. CBC's Cameron McLean has their story.
Yeah, so that's the building.
Paul Bechta's dad moved into an assisted living facility here at the former Oddfellows home in Charleswood in 2019. Bechta's dad, Jim, has dementia, but wanted to stay close to the family's home. The facility felt like a good fit.
It's a small community, which I think it's both enjoyed but found sometimes challenging. But everybody got to know each other and really liked each other.
The Assiniboine Links facility was operated as a non-profit run by the international fraternal group known as the Oddfellows. When the ownership group decided to retire, they went looking for a buyer. In 2022, the ownership group sold the building to a developer who said they needed the tenants out in order to renovate the rooms. The tenants all left, but the renovations were never done. And instead, the building was sold to another owner who's now operating it as an independent living facility. All 17 of the facility's residents, including Bechta, were forced to find new places to live. Bechta's son took the case to the Residential Tenancies Commission, seeking compensation for rent, moving costs, and damage deposit. In July, the Chief Commissioner ruled in Bechta's favor, writing, "The fact that renovations were required was the foundation of the landlord's right to terminate in the first place. The act is not intended as a tool to provide a purchaser with vacant possession." Bechta's father was awarded more than $10,000.
All my hard work paid off, and it felt right to have actually tried to right a wrong. And with the hope then that now other families can try and also make a claim on behalf of their loved one that was also illegally evicted.
Bechta hopes his win will help other families fighting for their loved ones. CBC News has reached out to the ownership group for comment. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
An unidentified woman found dead at the Manwin Hotel a year ago now has a name. Last Thursday, Winnipeg police and others asked for help to figure out who she was. Today, we're told she's Melanie McKay from Garden Hill, and her sister came here to claim her remains. The death was not criminal. Some First Nations officials believe she could have been identified earlier because she had a metal plate implanted in her collarbone. Wolseley community members are protecting the decades-old elm trees in their neighborhood. They're having them inoculated before they get infected with Dutch elm disease. But they say it shouldn't be their responsibility, and the city should be handling it. CBC's Felicia Adam reports.
It's a marking this community is tired of seeing.
The red circle of death means that it's over and that tree will come down.
It represents the trees infected with Dutch elm disease. Amanda LaRougetel says it's something plaguing the tree canopies Wolseley is known for.
You can see this elm came down, so there was one there, and then there was one there, and then there was one there.
To stop the fast-spreading tree fungus, community members are raising money for preventative treatments. So far, they've raised over $25,000. Crews started Monday injecting trees along Wolseley Avenue with systemic fungicide. Ian Dick is part of the Wolseley Tree Committee. He says the proactive treatment will let the elm survive the next 3 years.
I think we started with about 2,000 trees in Wolseley just 5 years ago or so, and now we're down to 1,000. So it's pretty scary when you look at that rate of loss.
The money will let the community inoculate 53 trees, but it's something residents feel the city should already be doing.
We're putting a lot of responsibility on residents and homeowners here. It's city property that we're putting our money towards saving, right? And we have gotten no support from the city at all for this project so far.
Last year, Winnipeg removed over 3,000 trees infected with Dutch elm disease in parks and boulevards. A city spokesperson says Winnipeg does not inoculate elms.
Within 10 years, we'll be looking at nothing but wires, which is not pretty.
David Barclay has seen the trees on his street be cut down one by one and replaced with new trees.
And that's what the whole street's going to look like in 15 years. And these trees will barely even be up to the lower cable wires.
LaRougetel believes the city should do more now.
It is short-sighted to not do everything that we can, and by we I mean as a city, to protect and preserve what we have today.
Crews will be working for the next 2 weeks. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Time now to bring in weather specialist Riley Lachak. And Riley, people probably looking for a bit of reprieve under some of those trees these days.
Yeah, certainly a bit of a sticky one. A far, far difference, Brittany, from where we were at this time yesterday. So temperatures through the afternoon, 25.4, the best we've done in Winnipeg Compare that to just over 20 degrees that we saw yesterday. Yes, a 30 on the map in Melita this afternoon, 28s through Brandon and Dauphin, and seeing some heat as well into parts of northern Manitoba. We have a bit of a ridge that's formed in the jet stream that's really helped to push some of that extra cloud cover out. I know a little bit foggy in some parts of the province this morning. Maybe a little bit foggy again as we head overnight into the morning tomorrow for your Wednesday morning commute. But certainly looking at a brighter day again as we head through the afternoon. You can see some of that blue sky on our camera outside. 28 degrees for the afternoon. We're looking at another hot and humid one as we get through the afternoon hours tomorrow. And Brittany, we are looking at some instability starting to move into the province as we get through Wednesday into Thursday. I'll have more on that when I come back in a bit.
All right. Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
He's making headlines across the country, but this mega-affiliated musician is having his finances now being questioned. More on that straight ahead. Pro-Trump rocker Sean Feucht has had concerts canceled all over Canada amid backlash to some of his views. Now, a nonprofit watchdog is raising questions about a charity tied to the evangelical singer. The CBC's Arturo Chang reports.
Sean Feucht's worship concerts may be free, but donations keep them going.
It costs millions of dollars, to do what God's called us to do. And we would love for you guys to help us. Shameless plug there.
Canadians can either donate directly to his U.S. organization or, if you want a tax receipt, through a BC-based charity called the Great Commission Foundation. But a nonprofit watchdog is raising questions about that charity.
This charity is not financially transparent.
The Great Commission Foundation helps hundreds of Christian groups by doing tax receipts for them, handling millions of dollars. But the watchdog said there are no details on what some organizations ultimately get, including the Canadian chapter of Feucht's Burn 24/7. The right-wing rocker has drawn condemnation over past comments he's made on abortion, US LGBTQ+ rights, and gender rights. Earlier this month, a permit for him to perform at the Alberta legislature grounds was approved, but many shows elsewhere have been canceled.
He uses that platform to increase the controversy.
Christy Gaffer says all the buzz is playing into Feucht's hands. She's the former national director of one of Feucht's U.S. charities and part of a group of ex-volunteers calling for an investigation into his financial practices. The group points to things like properties owned by Feucht and his charities, like this California mansion, acquired by his tax-exempt ministry last year.
Worship is a holy thing, and I feel that, and I believe that he has used it for his own self-enrichment.
Charity Intelligence says lack of transparency is an issue with other charities as well.
But when charities are not transparent and are not accountable and are not open and disclosing where the money goes, that opens them up to these questions.
In the U.S., a Christian charity watchdog also says donors should withhold giving to Feucht's main charity, giving it an F on its transparency.
CBC News reached out to Feucht and Burn Canada. We also asked the Great Commission how much money does Burn get, but we did not hear back. Arturo Chang, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The search for a Norwegian man trekking through a treacherous part of northern Manitoba continues. But a search team from northern Ontario is calling it quits over rising costs. Stefan Schodelvik left Fort Severn July 25th and was set to be in York Factory Friday. He never arrived, but one of his dogs did. Men from Fort Severn started looking for him over the weekend, but called it off today due to mounting helicopter rental costs. RCMP say they had some people in the area of the Hayes River yesterday, and today had a searcher wade into the river. Mounties expect to have all of the terrain, checked in the next couple days. Manitoba is putting together an emergency response plan to deal with an outbreak of African swine fever. The disease has never made it to North American soil, but as CBC's Bartley Kivas reports, an outbreak would require this province to cull hundreds of thousands of pigs.
Pig farming and pork processing are worth millions a year to Manitoba's economy. Since most of the pork we produce heads across the border to the United States, the province is working on a plan to deal with the consequences of a border closure.
In Manitoba, 90% of what we produce is exported, so that's a big hit.
The concern is a disease that's never been seen on Canadian soil, but's already killed millions of pigs in Europe, Asia, and Africa. It's called African swine fever, a disease caused by a virus completely harmless to humans, but kills domestic pigs after they come in contact with other infected pigs, their blood, feces, or even infected pork products. Last week, the Manitoba government asked consultants to put together a plan to kill and dispose of hundreds of thousands of pigs if the virus ever makes it to Canada. Manitoba Agriculture warns an outbreak in Canada would be an economic and animal welfare emergency. The plan would coordinate government actions with those at private companies like Canada Packers, High Life, and Progressive Group. Manitoba's chief veterinary officer says he's pleased Canada has been able to keep swine fever out for this long, but the disease is still spreading elsewhere in the world.
I think the risk is still present. That's what it really boils down to. And we have to be cognizant of that risk, and we have to do everything that we can to prevent it from coming in.
Right now, African swine fever has a North American toehold in Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Officials say the most likely way it arrives on the North American mainland is at the airport in the form of infected food. Bartlett Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Riley's back in now, and earlier this week it was feeling like fall sweater weather, and now I don't think anybody wants to be around a sweater today at all.
A couple days where we're looking at some warm temperatures, and then we're going back down again and maybe back up. You're probably
it's your
confused.
Favorite.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a roller coaster.
Maybe you're confused. Here's a guide to kind of help maybe figure out where we are. You tell me. I will show you this now, but I don't know. Here we go. Obviously, we've come through winter. We've come through the second winter, the third winter, then to spring. I think right now we're somewhere in here right now with that false fall that we had, with those couple of cooler days, some damp days, and maybe we're into the second summer now. I don't know. I'll let you decide when you see what's happening in our 10-day temperature trend. So I did mention that we are looking at a couple of warmer days, Wednesday into Thursday, looking at that heat and that humidity remaining in place. But then look at what happens as we get into next week. Yeah, maybe a little bit of a bump toward the end of the month once again. But yeah, we are sliding closer and closer into that fall mode here as we get toward the end of August. It's expected, right? So high pressure, that's what's helped usher in some hot and humid airs we've gotten throughout the day. That's created a bit of a ridge here in the jet stream. This does start to shift a little bit further to the east as we get through the day on Wednesday, and that will kind of spark up a couple of things here as we get through the next couple of days. So first off, this warm front starts to push through into Wednesday, and along this warm front, there's a chance that we get some extra cloud cover kicking up, maybe a couple of showers, but it's what I'm watching as we get later into the afternoon, into the evening hours tomorrow, particularly in western Manitoba as this first area of low pressure pushes in. Bit of clashing here with this low and this warm front could lead to some thunderstorms with some heavy downpours, some strong winds, maybe even the possibility of hail as we get through into the overnight hours. There is a chance, I think, that some of this does make it into Winnipeg, into the Red River Valley through the overnight hours Wednesday into the day on Thursday. So as this slides east, this does lead to a bit of a drearier day into Thursday with the possibility of some scattered showers on and off or some thunderstorms. And then we get a bit of clearing as this next low starts to turn its way through central Manitoba. So yes, rainfall accumulation forecasting is a little bit all over the map with this one because it's taking into account the potential that we do see some thunderstorms into some of this. So generally looking at pretty sporadic rainfall, I think, but where you do see some of these thunderstorms, do expect that some of these forecast readings are a little bit enhanced. So we'll take a look at this through the next couple of days to see how things progress, but just gives you a sense that we are looking at some unstable weather pushing in as we get through the next couple of days. So temperatures into Wednesday, 31s, 30 degrees, 33 into Miata, Brittany, as we get through Wednesday, 28 in Winnipeg, and warm into the north as well.
All right. Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Still ahead, what's behind this meetup in the nation's capital? Find out in our Daily Lift. Don't go anywhere. A historic landmark in Sweden's far north is on the move, and it offers a very different meaning to the term, the weight of the church. This 113-year-old church, weighing about 600 tons, is headed to a new home. It's part of a 30-year project to relocate the buildings and thousands of residents in the old city centre of Kiruna to save them from sinking ground. The location is also where a nearby massive iron ore mine is planning an expansion. The new city centre is 5 kilometres down the road. That's a 2-day journey for the lumbering church on a specially built trailer, moving at about 500 metres per hour.
A little on the slow side. Okay, our dog walking forecast tonight takes us to Brandon. This is Layla. Thank you, Danielle. Layla enjoying a little bit of a rest in the sunshine. Well, you know what? Tomorrow, great day to get out for a dog walk. Just make sure you have lots of water on hand. The sunscreen as well for the people, particularly, because we are looking at a hot and humid one tomorrow. 18 degrees first thing in the morning, up to 28 through the afternoon, but feeling closer to the mid-30s with the humidity by the time we get into the later afternoon hours. And that does, as we get into the later evening in Winnipeg, bring us the risk of seeing some thunderstorms. So just keep that in mind. Tomorrow, pretty decent, but as we get into Thursday, we do run into more instability at 25 degrees, and then you'll see a cold front sweep through 19s and 20s through the weekend, staying pretty windy through the weekend and rebounding slightly into next week. Hundreds of Mazda Miata enthusiasts gathered in Ottawa over the weekend. Lovers of the classic car traveled from right across North America.
And their 30-year celebration of Ottawa's underground Miata network is our daily lift.
160 cars is here from 14 states and 5 provinces.
Well, we have some friends that live here. We met through the Miatas down in Texas in '09, and we've been fast friends ever since.
Miata owners are the greatest people in the world. And we've been here before. We've met a lot of Canadians, and we love them. They're very welcoming. They're delightful people, and we really have enjoyed all the fun we have with them. They're just great people to be around.
Well, that's what's great about the Miatas is you join a club, you instantly have 200 friends, and at an event like this, a whole lot more. So we know people from all over the country that we've met through the Miata Club.
I love it. Unfortunately, I don't travel light, and that doesn't look like it has enough trunk space for me.
Yeah, it might be a bit cold in the winter, too.
Oh, well, we'll see you here tomorrow.
Have a good one.